Tanya, this is, I know you've been writing for us quite a lot about your confrontations with people who, as Howard says, don't take this stuff seriously, in fact, militate on the other side. What has been your experiences over the past couple of weeks?
I have mostly been reading Twitter. And I think when I interviewed you a couple of years ago, Howard, you told me that social media would destroy the world.
Was I right?
Yes, you were right. Because it's a harbinger of what's to come, I think. And I was a bit disturbed, Jake, when you told me that we were going to try and cheer everybody up with this event tonight.
Not sure that's quite the words I used. Morale, I think, was the word.
Morale, sorry. Because I don't have any words of comfort. I just feel, as you do, completely shocked, but at the same time, not shocked at all. I've spent a lot of time, and I accept that my experience is in no way comparable to the experience of people in Israel. I'm a diaspora Jew, but I have my own negotiation with the non-Jewish world around me. And I was always so proud to be a British Jew, because, I mean, we were the winners of history, right? You know, we were the only intact community in Europe, except possibly the Albanians, but that's quite a niche subject. You know, we say our really passive-aggressive prayer for the royal family. May God in His everlasting kingdom. And we felt secure and we felt loved, and maybe some of us, I don't know if anyone here agrees, would believe, you know, it never would have happened here. You know, if the Nazis had landed, the people of Britain would have stepped up for us. They wouldn't have let us. And I mean, I just have to say to you, I'm not sure I believe that any longer. And maybe it's just I've been on Twitter, and what they say about Twitter is all tweets are generated by 2% of Twitterers, and they're all insane. But what I've seen there is a return to medieval anti-Semitism. I mean, you all know the history of the Jews. I mean, as I said, Britain is proud. We are proud to be British Jews, and yet we had the first blood libel. The blood libel was invented here in Norwich in 1844. I've been to Norwich. Is there anyone here from Norwich? No, okay, good. Something interesting happened in Norwich. They have a first. In 1290, of course, we were expelled, the first expulsion. Britain is very proud of having let in the 10,000 children of the Kindertransport, but where were their parents? Immigration to Palestine was policed. The Evian Conference, they offered almost nothing. Jewish children who came here from Germany had to be sponsored by families. And so really, and I accept that this is just a mank of what's happening in Israel. What's happening in Israel is the real deal, and for the rest of us, here it's just sort of ripples. But I feel, and I don't think I'll continue to feel like this because I really hope I don't, but I feel like my relationship with Britain has been shattered. You know, I looked at journalists that I've always admired, you know, journalists who would summon a world that I felt that I wanted to live in, you know, a world of fairness without child poverty. You know, I've been banging the drum about child poverty for years and years, and growing inequality and societies that are unequal or unstable. And I've waited for these people to say a word that they were sorry, that they cared that these people were butchered, and they said nothing. They said nothing. Among my friends, my non-Jewish friends, nothing. My husband wants to bomb Gaza to the Stone Age, which I don't find very helpful. My non-Jewish husband, he said, let's bomb it forward to the Stone Age, which I thought was awful. I just did want to say, I'm not going to ramble on too long because I know people really want to hear from Melanie and Howard. I shouldn't be surprised, because in 2016, when Corbyn took control of the Labour Party, I covered this. I covered the As a Jews, I covered the Jewish Voice for Labour. I've had lunch with Jackie Walker. I've watched them stand up and cheer inside a room of non-Jews with a couple of token Jews to cheer for Ken Loach, the man who champions the most anti-Semitic document of the mid-20th century, which is, of course, the play Perdition, which on a small matter charges the Jews more generally with self-murder. And I'm going to finish on this. I think it was you, Howard, who wrote, in fact, I know it was you when you wrote your superb piece on The Promise, when you said that Holocaust denial is old hat. Now the charge is that we have failed to learn from the Shoah. Well, I would say that we've gone further now. We've gone to, it's our fault. Because what I'm hearing is the characterization of the Jew as demonic. The Jew can do nothing right. And again, I feel I'm plagiarizing you too much, but you always argued, and I felt this was very, very true, that if the Jews are responsible for the Shoah, if we brought it on ourselves, as the parallels to the crucifixion are obvious, which, by the way, we didn't do, it was the Romans. If we did it to ourselves, there's nothing to be afraid of, and these people can live in this paradise where they don't need to be afraid that their civilization will collapse, even as it collapses around them. And the final thing I want to say is I wanted to say something about, because there are two main elements, there are two kinds of anti-Semite in this country. There are young, radicalized Muslims and stupid kids. And then there is the educated bourgeois left. And I really struggle to what is in it for these people. And I wish I understood. But the only thing that makes any sense to me at all, a flicker of an idea, is that these people say, if they're not anti-capitalist, they believe in fairness, right? They believe in their own moral goodness. And yet they benefit, all of them. They are at the top of the society. They benefit from every benefit a wealthy liberal democracy can give them. And yet they feel guilty, but not guilty enough to actually do anything about it. And so they launder their souls through us. We are the signifiers of their goodness. And the only thing that I'm really afraid of, and forgive me if I've got the wrong words, the only thing I'm really afraid of, because I think this stuff is 2,000 years old. I don't think any of this stuff is new. I think we've been so lucky that we've seen nothing, very little, since the Shoah. There was a polite pause after the Shoah, a silence. Is what I'm seeing, what I fear is that what people want is for us to fulfill our destiny in their eyes, which is toppled, our morality in the dust. My builder wrote on Facebook, I live in West Cornwall, and my builder, I've been looking for anti-Semitism everywhere, but luckily in Cornwall, most people don't know what a Jew is. He said, people don't like it when you think you're better than everybody else. And I think that's it. I think that's the most profound thing I've heard this week. So it's wonderful to see you all. And I'm just going to end with a joke, because Howard someone repeating a joke, so I'm going to try a joke as well, which is, do you remember Woody Allen's The Whore of Mensa, in which he visits a prostitute, and for extra $30, he gets to watch her have a panic attack? Well, that's why I was very surprised that you were going to pay a £5 for tonight. That's me.
Thank you, Tanya. So I think can we beam in Johnny? We can't.
Oh, we can't ask him about The Guardian.
Has The Guardian been particularly bad?
I believe that The Guardian, and obviously I can say this because Jonathan isn't here, I read all the papers every day. I've read all the papers every day for 20 years. If there is an immoral intellectual godfather to all of this in this country, if I had to put one man in the dock, I'd put Alan Rusbridger in it. Because it's The Guardian. It has been, over the last 20 years, massacre in Jenin. There was no massacre. The partiality, the lack of fairness, the taking... if I had to blame one person, I'd blame him, because he has made it respectable. All those university teachers, those artists, they sign those letters because The Guardian says they can.
In fact, Melanie, you know that from first-hand experience.
Yes, I'm so old, my memory goes back even further than Alan, whose first day at The Guardian I remember. My epiphany at The Guardian, which started the change in my entire political personality, was in 1982, when I realized that I was a Jew and on the other side to them.
And you were at The Guardian at that point?
I was at The Guardian for another, whatever it was, 10 years after that. They were pretty bad. They were pretty bad then.